Hi, guys.
Hi, everyone.
Checking my sound.
I can hear you.
Okay. We'll wait just one moment for others who might be arriving on the committee.
Yeah, I don't see Doris yet.
Brian, check your screen. You seem to be taking over. Just be sure you don't have any noise. Maybe no one else has spoken. Brian, could you mute yourself just to be sure that there's not something amiss?
Yes, I did.
Valerie, could you speak, please?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
It was stuck on Brian, and I just wanted to be sure
Okay.
we'd see whatever was happening. Okay, thanks. How are we for a quorum?
Yeah, I was just going to ask. I don't think we have one.
Valerie? Okay, we're good. This is the CB2 Landmarks October meeting. There's only one meeting this month. For anyone who's not familiar with the procedure, we hear a presentation, then there are questions and comments by the committee, then questions and comments from the public. And at the end of the session, members of the public are welcome to stay for the last part, but may not speak. Thank you. I'll explain the number one for tonight 363 Lafayette Street was withdrawn yesterday by the Landmarks Commission because the apparently the place for the sign is not owned by the applicant. So we'll begin with 81 Horatio Street. The application is to replace all windows in the front facade. Valerie, if you can upgrade those who are presenting.
Sure. Hi, I'm Valerie De La Rosa. If you could just raise, I'm also on the Landmarks Committee. Can you, if you're here for 81 Horatio, you can raise your hands, and I only know, great. All right, we've got Sean Arrowsmith, who's going to present on behalf of 81 Horatio. So Sean, you should be able to share your screen.
All right. I'm sorry, so what am I supposed to do at this point?
Oh, you can, you're free to share your screen and present on 81 Horatio.
Okay, 1 second.
If there's a connection issue, let us know, please.
Sorry, yeah, I'm trying to figure out why it's not. Here we go. Does that work?
There you go.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, we're all seeing this? Like a confirmation?
Yep, we can see it. You can go ahead and get started.
Okay, so 81 Horatio, this is an application to replace all of the existing windows on the front facade. Skipping through here. Some old existing tax lot photos. Obviously, it's a 4-story plus basement townhouse with a neighboring sister building. Currently, it's casement windows that are 6/6. This is the existing conditions and existing windows. We will be replacing the windows visually as in-kind as possible. The replacements will be full height tilt and turn windows. At least that's what we're proposing. It's primarily an acoustic and energy efficiency interest. Tilt and turn windows have a much more positive closing operation, whereas casement windows never quite seal to the same degree. So they get much better acoustic performance and energy performance. Moving forward. Again, this is demonstrating 81 Horatio on the left in this image. On the right is the sister building. This is existing conditions. Like I said earlier, it's all windows on the front facade. We are not touching the fire escape or any of the existing masonry or other details on the facade. It's purely window replacement. Color of the window will match the existing conditions. It's a white dove, Benjamin Moore color. Like I said, the existing is a 6/6 casement, and we're producing a simulated casement tilt and turn window that will also appear to be 6/6. On the left, you have the existing window details. On the right are the proposed.
Sir, just a moment. Could you back up one slide and magnify the matching windows? That is our chance to see them. Sorry to interrupt.
So on
Yeah,
the
exactly, yes, okay. Just so that everyone can,
on the right is the proposed tilt and turn.
I gather there, it's a bad,
I'm sorry.
I see. It's an optical illusion, sorry. Okay,
Okay,
fine. Okay, if you carry on, thank you.
that's right. Yeah. These are the details. So again, on the left are the existing casement windows. On the right are the manufacturer's details for the tilt and turn window. You can see if I zoom in on the proposed details, it maintains the existing glazing offset of a casement window. Visually, there's a slight increase in the illumination. Where it's 2 5/8 inch on the mid rail. Existing casement is 2 1/8. That's the only significant dimensional difference between the windows. That's it. Other questions?
What's the material?
Yeah, just 1 second, Sunday. Are you finished, sir, with the
Yeah.
presentation? Sir,
Yes, I am finished.
I'm sorry, it's a little hard to hear you. Yes, the question is the material of the old and new, what is that the same?
Both windows are wood. Existing is a wood full casement. The existing window, I mean, the proposed window will also be wood. The only thing that isn't wood is the exterior of the muttons is a painted aluminum. Again, it all will be painted to match.
And could you, maybe if you could go back to the drawing that I asked about, picture of the 2 windows side by side. Yeah. Can you characterize the difference in the width of the mullions and the surround a bit?
Absolutely. So the surround will be dimensionally similar. There's no
Right.
increase in what we're discussing. I don't know if you can see my mouse moving, but it's
the
mid rail.
Right.
Of a casement window, it's much thinner. On the double hung, tilt and turn window, it'll be, it goes to 2 5/8 up from 2 1/8. So it's a 3/8 inch difference.
Understand. This is for the new con with insulation and so forth, that these small changes are made.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there other questions from the committee?
I just want to be clear, there's wood on both sides, outside and inside.
Correct.
Can I just say something, Shanol? Shanol?
Yes.
Yeah, I wasn't clear on, you used the term casement windows, and are those conventional, like, I don't know if there was 6/4 or 3/3. I don't remember, I don't see it right now, but are you suggesting that they are just made to look that way and they're actually not that kind of window?
No, I'm not suggesting that. They are full 6/6 double hung windows right now. This is the existing conditions of the building.
And that's what you're planning to replace them with?
We are planning to replace them with what's called a tilt and turn window that will visually look like a 6/6.
Well, that's debatable, but I mean, so the point is you're doing a tilt and turn that has the appearance that you feel of 6/6. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
So this is Brian, and I think that, Sean, you were using the term casement to describe the existing wood windows. Is that correct?
It was, yeah, they are double hung windows. I'm sorry if I misspoke.
Okay. And they are right now painted wood,
Correct.
but the new tilt and turn casement windows are going to have some aluminum clad exterior elements.
Yes, just in full disclosure, the only element would be the mullions here, as denoted in the detail. The main frame and the main framing of the window, the mid rail, the simulated mid rail, the jamb head and sill will all be wood.
So then what is exposed aluminum on the outside?
Here you can see the 7/8 inch mullions.
I see that only those small elements.
Correct.
Okay.
And
Thank
it will all be painted the same color to match the current existing color of the windows.
Okay, same color. Thank you.
Are there other questions from the committee? If anyone from the public wishes to comment on this, raise your hand and Valerie will recognize you.
I'm not seeing any Chenault.
Okay, thank you. Bank Street, please get ready to share your screen.
Sean, I'm
One-
going to move you back over. Thank you.
109 Bank Street, the application is to construct rooftop and rear yard additions. I want to point out to the committee that an updated application, which includes the important mock-up, came at, I think it was 1632 was the timestamp. So if you're working on from the files on your computer, you need to see that email to have an accurate picture.
All right, so if you're in the attendee list and you're here to speak on behalf of 109 Bank Street, if you could raise your hand. Great, I see you, Margaret.
Hi, good evening. Can everyone see this?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Margaret Hugh, and on behalf of CWB Architects and our clients who are the owners of 109 Bank Street, I'm presenting the work that we're proposing to 109 Bank. This is a single family home that was originally built in a row of 4 in 1846 in the Greek Revival style. And then and the work proposed is to replace the existing 2-story extension at the rear, to add a new rooftop addition, and some work to the front facade, which is largely repair and restoration. And we've been advised by Landmarks that it's staff level work. So
would you repeat that last sentence, please?
The work to the front facade is largely repair and restoration. That we've been advised by Landmarks is staff level work.
Thank you.
Sure. So looking at the presentation, 109 is on the north side of the street, bordered by Greenwich and Washington. And at the bottom, we're showing some photos. Where my mouse is, this is the existing front facade. And then next to it are tax photos from the 80s and 40s. And I can zoom in if that's better. And then to the left is the photo of the existing rear facade. This is a plan of the block with 109 Bank where my mouse is hovering now. And this diagram shows that the donut has been modified significantly from what you would normally expect of a donut. And a number of the row houses have received rear extensions as indicated by the star symbol. And then these darker teal buildings are taller apartment and condo buildings. So this is a view of the row of 4 with 111 on the left and then moving east towards 105 Bank. And this is our the building that we're discussing tonight. I'll move through this because again, the front facade we've been advised is considered staff level. So looking at the sightline diagram, this building shaded in gray is ours, and this is Bank Street. So the sightline from across the street, you can see by this diagonal line. This lower dashed diagonal line where my mouse is the current roof line that we're proposing to drop in order to accommodate this rooftop addition. And in doing so, it would clear that diagonal sight line. And then you can see at the rear, this solid rectangle indicates the current rear extension that we're proposing to replace with a slightly longer rear extension. This is a plan and photos of the current roof condition, and you can see that there are quite a few skylights of various sizes, and then a lot of mechanical equipment and ductwork sitting on steel dunnage, and it's quite a mess up there. So going to our proposed roof plan, this is the front facade of the building on the left. And sitting at a 15-foot setback is where we're proposing to do this rooftop addition. So this is the main rooftop addition, and then a stair bulkhead adjacent to it, which would have a lower roof line. On the right here is a larger photo of the existing rear facade, and we're proposing to rebuild the masonry at the second and third floor levels, which you can see is currently not in great condition. And we are also proposing to replace these windows up top. This is the existing non-original rear extension, and it's modeled in this diagram here in axon view. Up top, and then below is proposed extension and rooftop addition. So this axon view, and I'm going to zoom in a bit to be able to see it better. You can see that our neighbor to the west has an existing rear extension as well, and then the two neighbors to the east have full lot rear extensions, all non-original. The elevation shows that the masonry at the second and third floor will be replaced and the windows will be replaced. And then that masonry will be continued down below at the new rear extension. And then the module of the window lights will also be echoed down below to make for one cohesive rear facade design. This is a rendered existing rear facade showing it in the row of 4. And then this is proposed. Looking at the materials, again, the rear extension we are proposing to do in brick to match above. All the windows at the rear only would be steel. And then the rooftop addition we're proposing to do in a light colored stucco with solar panels on top. And I should also point out that the neighbors' chimneys will be extended to exhaust safely above the addition. So these are photos of the mock-up that is currently erected on the roof. And starting on Washington Street, these are the different points from which we're showing the photos. So,
ma'am, can you blow them up one by one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Zoom in.
So,
thank you.
Sure. So this is starting from the Washington Street side where it's not visible and continuing down towards the house, still not visible. When you stand across the street, you can start to see the top of the neighbor's extended chimney. And then moving towards Greenwich Street, you're again getting glimpses of the tops of the chimneys. So this is now standing at the corner of Greenwich and Bank Street. You're seeing the tops of the chimneys. And then the only angle from which you see the penthouse itself is at the diagonal corner, southeast, Greenwich and Bank Street. And you can see the chimney, and then you can see the existing mechanical equipment on the top of the roof, which is which is visible now from that view. And this is a photo of the mock-up on the roof. And then lastly, we're showing that last view enlarged here, and it has been rendered with the proposed rooftop addition. So you can see the extended masonry chimneys, and then a glimpse of the stair bulkhead, and then the windows of that rooftop addition. And we're showing it here to fully understand what that structure looks like. But in plan, we are working with a landscape designer to put planters and greenery around the edge of the building, which would obscure part of that addition. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, I have just one question, which I've forgotten. 1 second, let me get to my notes.
Sure.
Oh, could you go back to the rear facade? It's the windows I want to ask about, to be clear.
Is it this sheet, or would you like to see another one?
That one, yes.
Okay.
We're seeing from the bottom up on this one, the basement and the parlor floor with the 2 similar sized windows.
Yes, that's correct.
And above that then is the present condition is pristine, and you're proposing to alter it very considerably. And it looks from the drawing as though the window types are being changed throughout.
That is true. So we're rebuilding the masonry wall at the rear on the 2nd and 3rd floor in the same plane, and replacing the windows from these current double hung with no muntins to 2/2 windows. And that is to echo the proportion of the window lights on the front.
And to the right side on the 2nd floor,
yes,
is that a window similar to the ones downstairs?
Yes, smaller, but yes, this is also different in that this is a bay window that comes out, I believe, 2 feet.
And the others are in the plane of the masonry.
That's correct, yeah.
Margaret, this is Brendan Coburn. I'm the other architect on the project. Margaret,
Just a second.
just show that axonometric again, just to.
Sure.
Oh, sorry.
I think this drawing sort of you could zoom in on the proposed a little further if you can. This sort of explains the 2nd story sort of bump out.
I see, and that very light gray, barely detectable above the window is the depth of the bay,
Yeah.
right? And what is that depth?
The adjacent building at 111, I think, projects out about 3.5, 4 feet.
4
and then
feet, right.
our bay window is sort of back behind that, about 1 foot or 18 inches.
And the other question, if we could go back to the drawing that we had of the 2 facades. On the right is the present condition, and those are presumed to be the original openings with very likely new windows. Is that correct?
On the 2nd and 3rd floor, those are, we think, the original openings. The back wall has been altered or rebuilt or who knows what a couple of times. It's a very irregular surface.
For the whole facade, you mean?
Yeah, the whole facade.
Okay.
Yeah, so
the openings are the same. The pattern of the window is original, presumably.
there's no
lintels,
change.
it appears.
Yeah, no change to the masonry opening width or the length on the 3rd floor. On the 2nd floor, the width of the leftmost or eastmost window has been dropped to allow access onto a green roof there.
And are those casement windows the ones that are not the bay window on the second and third floors?
Yeah, they're all tilt and turns, sort of meant to look like, well, the third floor is meant to look like double hungs, and then the second floor is meant to be in the same language as the bay window, which is meant to be in the same language as the two-story addition of the lower two floors.
I'm sorry, what did you say about the top floor? It does or does not visually match what's present?
The top floor, if you mean the third floor,
Yeah, I mean the yeah, one, two, third, yeah.
Yeah, those are, there's no change to the masonry opening, but we're just using a steel window to look more or less like a double hung window so that we can sort of maintain the proportion of the rectangles of all the glass.
Okay, is there a drawing of that?
You mean a detail section through the window?
Well, anything that gives us a picture.
Margaret, do we have something like that?
Of the window itself? Not in...
There. This is the new, a rendering of the entire new windows pattern, right?
Yep.
Right.
So you can see, you know, there's one house has 6/6, another is 2/2, and the 105 is still at 1/1.
Okay. While we're on, I'm sorry, is the presentation finished?
Yes, it is.
Oh yeah.
Okay. While we're here, so I don't have to keep switching slides so much. Are there questions from the committee about the windows on the rear facade? And then we'll go on through the rest of it in order.
Well, this is Brian, and I would like to remark, was very pleasantly surprised that probably the first time we've ever seen a rear facade remodeling where it reduced the amount of glass instead of increasing it. So I think the proportion is well done.
Thank you.
Are there other questions or comments? My comment then is just questioning, disturbing the pattern of the windows on the second and third floors. If one sees the, in general, we accept, and in this case, very much acknowledge because the extension's already there, disturbing whatever was the original window pattern.
I would just say that generally we try to, generally in our practice, we try to follow that same sort of approach. In this particular case, we wanted to get a little bit more space within a master bedroom and sort of engage what's going to be a green roof on that space. So so we thought that this was a pretty handsome handling of that sort of request from the client, and then also sort of maintained, you know, by having it only be 2 bays wide rather than the full width, it sort of allowed for transition back to the flat plane of 107. The other thing was, I think if 111 wasn't stepping out 4 feet, we would have, we certainly would have probably tried to talk our client out of the additional space, but we thought that it was well concealed by the sort of hiccup that already exists in that 111 facade.
Okay, I just want to point that out for the committee, and we'll discuss it at a later time. Are there any other questions now about the rear at all? Are there questions about the penthouse? And everyone's clear on the visibility. And are there any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to 130 Prince Street. If you'll do the switching of people upgraded, I'll begin to read.
If you're here for 130 Prince Street, if you can raise your hand. Okay, great.
The application is to replace existing visible rooftop penthouse with a new, less visible penthouse, construct a non-visible pergola and mechanical enclosure on the roof, install railings along the perimeter of the roof, modify windows at the 5th floor setback terrace, and at the base, enlarging an egress door, modifying storefront door to. There's one thing I'd like to clarify about that before you begin the presentation.
Yes, I've upgraded a few people, but there's still 4 other people with hands raised. Can someone tell me who else needs to be here to present? Is it all 6 of you?
Hi, Valerie. It's not all of us. This is Cass Stackelberg. I'm going to be doing the presentation.
Okay.
Lakin Cole, my colleague, is part of the project team. Ryan Harvey may be speaking. He's with the architect team. Not sure who else. Let me look in your participant list and see who I recognize.
What about Rosalie? Is that
Rosa is also with the architect.
Okay, perfect. Just making sure.
Okay, yeah, sorry. It's
Just making sure you have questions for the public. That's fine.
Yep,
All right.
no problem.
Okay, the question is, it will, I'm sure, come out. Is the 5th floor setback terrace, is that the penthouse level or the level below?
Let me go through this. I think it'll be clear when you see our presentation. There are lots of little pieces. So let me share our presentation, and you can all let me know that you can see our set.
It's fine on my end.
I'm sorry, Shano, you do see it or you don't see it?
It's fine. If you can zoom on particular details as you go through.
Yep.
That you want to call our attention to. It's useful.
Okay. Yep. You can all see the screen now?
I can't assume everyone else can.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, all right, I'll get started then. Terrific, thank you. I'm Cass Stackelberg of Higgins, Quaysbarth and Partners, preservation consultants. I'm joined by my colleague Lakin Cole, as well as Ryan Harvey of Big Architects, Bjarke Ingels Group, who will be here to answer any questions you may have. And obviously, Big Architects are working on the design components of the project. The project site is 120 Prince Street and 130-136 Prince Street. It's located on the southwest corner of Prince and Worcester Street in the Soho Cast Iron Historic District, as you know, designated in 1973. And the existing building sort of has 2 component parts. One is, and I'll move my cursor here, one in the foreground here, right on Worcester and Prince, is a 5-story limestone-clad building that was approved by the Landmarks Commission in 1987, constructed in 1988. It's a 5-story building with a 1-story visible penthouse. So Chanel, to answer your question, this is the existing penthouse. You can see that. And then adjacent to that is a 4-story 1920s brick-clad garage building, which was combined in the 1980s to this building as part of the development or redevelopment of this site. And when this building was rehabbed, they also added a 5th-story penthouse on the roof of the historic garage. So there are two pieces. In the 1980s, they were combined, and the building remains combined today. I'll also mention, and this may be familiar to the committee, that the building is subject to a 74-711 from 2013, which involved a special permit for converting the ground floor and cellar to as a right retail use. So that's sort of part of the underlying facts of the property. The rehabilitation that we're going to be presenting is for the continued commercial office use on the upper floors with retail at the base. And there are really sort of 2 primary changes that we're proposing. One is to remove this existing penthouse, which you'll see in other images in a few slides, replace it with a shorter and more set back, less visible new rooftop addition, roughly in the same location, as well as some other non-visible changes on the roof. changes to the windows of this 5th floor setback addition that are barely visible from the street, and then some modest changes to the ground floor infill on Prince Street. Like so many of the Soho properties, the building itself has an interesting history of continued adaptive reuse, particularly the historic building constructed as a garage, used as a bakery, as it was at the time of designation, also as artist lofts, then later galleries, and then offices. It's an interesting continuing evolution. The site plan, as I mentioned, the building's located on the southwest corner of Prince and Worcester Street. The garage has 100 feet of frontage. The new building, 25 feet and 100 feet on Worcester Street. Some historic images. These are text photos, obviously. The corner building was constructed, as you see in this photo, constructed in the 1850s as a police station, later used as a municipal court. It was demolished in the 1960s. And then the garage building, completed in 1925, and as I mentioned, was used as artist lofts and a bakery around the time of designation. So in 1987, when the project for the new construction came before the commission, this site was vacant and the garage or bakery was adjacent to it. An article in the New York Times from 1988 just describing the and illustrating the commission's approval from December 1987 of this new limestone clad building adjacent and connected to the brick clad. You can see the addition up here on top of the garage, and then that penthouse on the limestone clad building. The building on the corner was designed by Lee Manners with Walter Melvin as an associate architect. Curiously, in 2010 in the AIA guide, the style, the guide described the style as clunky revivalism. Some drawings just from the 1980s DOB file showing the historic garage prior to the conversion. You can see across the base it had a series of different openings for sort of pedestrian entries, vehicular entries, windows, doors, sort of a whole combination. And then the approved elevation with the garage, this tall one-story addition on the garage, and then the 5-story plus penthouse limestone clad building on the front. I'll also mention that as part of this 1980s project, the whole base of the building was stripped of brick and was also clad in limestone. So it was a sort of combination of the two. So just illustrating that change. So this is the building from a Google Street View photo from 2009, but illustrating basically what the building looked like following the 1980s conversion. It had a multi-light windows on the upper floors, painted teal, this limestone clad across the base, and then storefronts across the ground floor in the same teal color. And as I mentioned, in 2013, the owner pursued a special permit for retail use. And as part of the requirements of the special permit, landmarks required that the limestone all be stripped off the base of the building. And in a sort of more restorative treatment, the base be clad in brick. As well, all the upper floor windows were replaced with multi-light steel sash windows, operable steel sash windows, closer to the historic condition. So the attempt was to sort of do a more restorative treatment following that 2013 approval. Some existing condition photos of the building. So here looking along the Prince Street elevation, these large storefront windows and doors across the base, multi-light windows above. Looking west on Prince, the limestone clad building on the corner, and then the garage building directly to the west. And then some details of the corner building, again, all clad in limestone, sort of an unusual window pattern and fenestration. And then you can see here the setback penthouse above the 5 stories. Looking at the scope of work, so this is just an existing axonometric, just to give you a volumetric sense of the building. Again, this is the penthouse that extends primarily over the 1980s portion and extends a bit over the garage. And then this very large 1-story addition here with these windows set back that was constructed on top of the garage building as part of that 1980s conversion. So the proposal is to remove that penthouse, construct a single pavilion volume setback further from the Worcester Street and Prince Street elevations, and also about 1.5 feet shorter. Landscaping of the roof for use of the commercial tenants. A simple pergola volume here that's going to be open, sort of a shade structure that's going to include the stair bulkheads that exist, and then mechanicals in the west back end of the roof. None of this is visible, and really the only portion, as you'll see in just a moment, the only portion that is visible is this sort of edge of the pavilion, just peeking up over the parapet, and then a railing that's being added around the perimeter of the roof. And the curvilinear forms, I'll talk a bit about that as well, but they're really derived from some of the other elements one sees across the rooftops, and as part of a sort of design effort to sort of enhance and improve movement around the roof, and as you'll see sort of throughout the building. An existing aerial view of the photo, of the roof rather, again, the pavilion or the penthouse and the skylights across the roof. This is now an existing axon just showing these existing circulation areas, the stair, egress stair here and here, and mechanicals off to the south. And the idea here is to, existing on the left, proposed on the right, the idea is to maintain the stair and elevator cores here, wrap them with this new pavilion here and the pergola here, and then sort of rationalize and condense all the mechanical equipment to the far south edge of the roof. All the mechanical equipment will sit within this, this mechanical screen below the existing water tank. This is a sort of concept diagram to illustrate how these sort of circular forms that you see on the roof are really percolate all the way through the building. And they're really intended on the roof as well as the interior floors to promote movement through the building. Sort of these circular forms bringing people up and down, and then on the roof allowing for circulation around the pavilion with this sort of pathway, and then the railing, and then the pergola to the west side. And you know, what we've been thinking about these sort of curvilinear forms and their placement and appropriateness in the district. And while they may seem a bit foreign, I think when you start looking around the district, obviously you see sort of the arcuated cast iron architecture here, the elevations of the Hawat building on Broadway. Across the ground plane, you see these curvilinear cast iron and glass vault light steps, some directly across the street on the north side of Prince Street. And then across the roofscape, these sort of curving forms, obviously with water tanks, which is sort of a prevalent feature of Soho, as well as the expanding neighborhood. And then this image in the middle, and I'm going to zoom in on this so you can really see it. I'm not sure how many of you on the committee are familiar with this roof piece, Trisha Brown's roof piece that was performed first in 1971 and then again in 1973. And this is a photograph of that, and this is looking south really from around Prince Street. And you can see that dancers from the company were positioned on roofs all the way through the district. So you can see them in red here, 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 and beyond. And this piece was really about connectivity and movement and spontaneity. And while this is perhaps a bit of a leap sort of regarding our roof, I think these sort of curvilinear forms that you see across the roofscape are tied to sort of the ideas that Big is sort of pursuing on the roof of 130 Prince, but also I think this idea of sort of spontaneity and communication that is at the heart of Trisha Brown's dance piece really is tied to the ideas behind the proposed roofscape. So with that, I'll show you a plan, so an existing plan here on the left with a penthouse, and then the proposed a relatively small pavilion at 2,200 square feet. This will be mostly meeting space, an outdoor terrace, pergola with the stair bulkhead and an open shade structure, and then the mechanicals to the south. An axiometric rendered view. The pavilion will have a standing seam metal roof made of copper nickel, which when first installed will look like a penny, but will quickly patinate to a sort of a luminous gray. And then this open shade structure for the pergola, and then metal enclosed screening for the mechanicals. roof rendering, and then some material samples. So this is sort of the finished color of the copper nickel that it will patinate to relatively quickly. The railings around the perimeter will just be a very thin stainless steel handrail with a wire mesh that will really sort of disappear from a distance. And then the cladding around the stair bulkhead, the pergola, and the paving. You'll see obviously the roofscape will be landscaped for use by the tenants. A section cut through the building again, so you can see these sort of curvilinear forms. And then the relative height of this pavilion at 10'7", shorter than all the other slab to slab heights on the floors below, and then set back off the parapets. Sightline diagrams, I'll show you the visibility studies, which are really sort of more telling. Comparative elevations, just to see the existing elevation here. That existing penthouse at 12 feet tall, plus the skylights, and the proposed penthouse or pavilion at 10'7". So again, it's shorter than what's there today, and also set back to a greater extent. Elevations for the rooftop elements, I'm happy to go through this if you have questions. The Prince Street elevation, again, sort of seeing that penthouse relative to the proposed setback further off the parapet and a bit lower. More detail elevations. This is a detail of the section through this pavilion. As I said, a copper nickel standing seam roof with a glazed, sort of taut glazed facade. We've constructed a mock-up that includes both the pavilion as well as portions of the pergola and the roof railing. So for all these images, there's an existing photo on the left, which illustrates the mock-up or the visibility of it, where you can see it, and then the rendered view, and then a zoomed view of the rendered view. So in this view, all you see is just a few inches of this handrail right here along this section of the parapet. This is relatively sort of across the street from the building. Looking toward the pavilion. So right now you can see the existing penthouse. I'll zoom in on this so you can all see. Right now you can see the penthouse and the existing roof railing in this location. And the proposed just basically is an exchange railing for a new railing design here with no visibility of the penthouse and a zoomed view of that. Continuing further to the west now. So again, this is now from the west side of West Broadway. I'll zoom in on this for you so you can see there's really not much to see here. Again, you can see the existing penthouse here and the orange netting for our proposed railing. And really all you see is the railing up on the upper roof. You don't see the penthouse. And obviously, you know, railings are features one sees, you know, on these buildings and adjacent buildings in the district. Continuing on, now looking south on Worcester Street. Again, here's the penthouse and a little bit of the railing, which you can see in these images. And they'll be, you know, really sort of really not that perceptive given the thin quality of the rail. Continuing, sorry, now on Prince Street, again, you know, the visibility of the existing penthouse that will disappear. And in this view, really no visibility of any of the proposed elements. Also on Worcester Street, now you're looking sort of north on Worcester. Prince is up here, no visibility. And then as you move west, as you move east on Prince Street, so now we're standing on the corner of Green and Prince Street. You can see here the existing penthouse. Here, this is actually clad in concrete panels, whereas the base of the building is limestone. And then the proposal for the pavilion here. So you're seeing the copper nickel edge of the roof, that standing seam roof, and then just the glass side elevation of the addition. And then there is a longer view. It's difficult to make out. So this is a longer view now from the east side of Mercer Street. You know, the project site is down here. Again, I'll zoom in. So this is the existing penthouse. And then you can see here all that you see of the proposed penthouse with railings in the foreground. So, limited visibility from a distance. Continuing on to some of the other areas of work. So we're proposing to replace the windows and doors that are in this setback addition on top of the garage. So here, and shown in elevation here. These are the existing windows. Again, these all date to the 1988 construction, and will be replaced within the same masonry opening. So these are existing plans and elevations and proposed plans and elevations. So the idea is to bring in some additional daylighting with larger expanses of glass. And as I said, there are no changes to the masonry openings. And really, these are not visible from the street in any perceptible way. You sort of just see the head of these windows in some of those visibility studies. Some details for the panels, the operable panels that will open laterally to provide access to that setback. Across the ground floor, as I mentioned, there are a handful of small changes. So this is the existing elevation on the top and a proposed elevation on the bottom. This is Prince Street. And so right to left, we're proposing to take this bay of infill, which right now is a pair of doors, and just to replace it with a storefront window to match the detailing of the adjacent storefront window with brick and stone sill. This bay is going to just get a simple card reader, no changes to the infill. And then this bay, right now this bay serves as an egress with an egress door. And the proposal is to widen this to accommodate two separate doors. And I'll show you the plan in just a moment because there's a programmatic need to separate egress from the lower levels and the upper levels, which I'll show you in greater detail in just a moment. Existing and proposed plans along the base. There are existing ADA accessible ramps around the building that were approved a few years ago. You can see those here. So this first bay, sort of changing the window, the door to a window, very simple. It's going to match the detailing of the adjacent window, and it will be in the same plane as the adjacent window. Right now the door is recessed, but the windows will be pulled out, and the brick coursing will be carried across with a stone sill to match the adjacent. Some details to illustrate that, that change. The egress door that I mentioned, this is an existing part plan and a proposed part plan on the right. And then this is an overall key plan. So you can see where we are here on Prince Street near the midpoint of the elevation. The current condition, there is a stair coming up from the cellar and a stair coming down from the upper floors. Both of them dump into this landing and then out this egress. And because of the uses for the cellar in particular and the upper floors, there is a desire to separate egress from people exiting from the cellar and those exiting from the upper floors. Right now, someone could come up, and if they didn't exit, they could actually go all the way upstairs into the office floors in this egress stair. And the desire is to separate those so that anybody in the basement, in the cellar rather, that needs to egress will only be able to go straight out to the street as opposed to being able to come up stairs. And then those on the upper floors will only be able to egress straight out this door. So going back to the elevation, where there is a single egress door that serves the cellar and the upper floors, the desire now is to separate egress so that those from the cellar can't go to the upper floors. It's really about egress and security for the upper floors as much as anything else. It's a modest change. And again, all the brick here that we would be impacting is all circa 2013 as part of that special permit modification where the limestone was stripped and the base of the building was clad in brick. And then finally, this is existing and proposed elevation, and then the part plans illustrating that separation of egress from the base and the upper floors. Card reader, as I mentioned, mounted to the return, small equipment. No smoking signs; those will be required at the entries. These are small adhesive applied letters, and only measuring 4 inches square. Cut sheets for the card readers and the intercoms, and then a rendering here. So this is an existing photo across the base. So what we're proposing is to modify this opening here for a wider two-door egress. And then this bay here, which right now is a door, modifying it to be a window to match the adjacent window and carrying the brick across. Some other elevations on Prince Street for security cameras. These we think will all be handled by the staff, but at Landmarks, but we're including them here. Again, some security cameras at the entries on Worcester Street. Again, we expect the staff at Landmarks to be able to approve these, but we're sharing them with you anyway. And then finally, just a rendering looking west along Prince Street, showing the changes at the base for the windows, the door, and then the overall rehab of the building. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have.
Cass, I have just a couple to get my notes up to date, and then we'll go through. The material for the penthouse, it's a complete glass around with simply the copper roof on top. Is that correct?
Right. So the way the plan may be the best thing to look at. So the way this works is the structure is sort of set in within the body of the pavilion, and that allows the roof to sort of extend over and cantilever over. And then this is just a glass with mullions and framing for the doors, but just a simple glass elevation. Yes.
So it's almost like a pergola with the proper roof on top and glass around it.
I'm sorry, say that again?
That's my friend. It's sort of like a pergola with a roof and surrounded by glass.
Yeah, I mean, conceptually, this volume and this volume are related. This is open completely with a sort of almost like a concave pergola, and this is a convex.
And the only thing under it is the existing stairway.
Right. So this is the stair bulkhead.
Okay.
And then
I just wanted to put the drawing. That's fine.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, the penthouse on the newer building was original.
So this penthouse, the existing penthouse, right? It was constructed in 1988 with the rest of the building.
Right. Okay. So the building is intact as it was originally built up top.
Correct.
Okay. Now, for the committee, may I ask that we go in the order of the presentation, and we'll come to each section one by one. Can we begin with discussion of the, if there's any discussion about demolition, bring that in. Basically a discussion of the rooftop itself. And Cass, perhaps you could, I think that's the best thing for reference. Thank you.
Yep.
Just raise your hand, and Valerie, if there are a lot of people who wish to speak, it's more orderly.
There's no hands raised from the committee.
No one has a question? Okay, I'll just clarify a few more things. The only visibility from Lucy described as close by is the railing, and these bits of rooftop are from a far distance. Is that a correct way to?
Yes, that's accurate. So right. So the only time that
technically,
the only time this portion of the pavilion is visible is when you're sort of beginning around Green Street and east, so a block away, right?
And the cardinal points again. Just because
the addition's visibility is
No, I'm sorry. I mean the position of the back to the drawing of the roof.
Oh, sorry.
What's north, south, east, and west?
Right. So the pavilion is on the east portion of the roof. This is Worcester running here, and this is Prince here. So this is to the left is east. So this is set on the left portion of the roof. In the let's say the eastern the eastern portion of the roof.
So the other two are west and south.
Yeah.
Okay. And any questions about the ground floor? No other questions from the committee? Are there members of the public who wish to speak? If so, raise your hand and Valerie will recognize you one by one.
I see that Bo has a question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't really have a question. You know, I think I remember when this building went up. It's not a great building, and I think this is actually an improvement. It's the penthouse is minimally visible. I don't see any problem with it. I think, and the only slight thing I might say is the removal of the, I believe that's in the originally arcade baking building where you have the, you're adding that second doorway. Isn't that right? I think that's right.
Right. So this portion of the brick, this is what was installed under the 74-711 in 2013.
Right.
So this door is being expanded to accommodate, or this opening is being expanded to accommodate two doors. But it's right. It's in the historic portion, but not in the. None of this is historic material. This is all.
No, I understand. No, again, I think it's an improvement, frankly, and that's it. It's my comment.
Thank you.
That's it for the committee, Valerie.
Hold on. Yes. Sorry, I didn't realize my sound was on. Yes, that's it for the committee, and we have two members of the public.
Okay, if you'd recognize them and identify your names, please.
Nicole Sherwood.
Yeah, hi. I represent owners of the penthouse at 141 Prince Street. We just wanted to understand what is your penthouse being used for? Because to us, it looked maybe like a party space.
Nicole, somehow.
Hello?
Your microphone or where you are. Yes.
Yeah, should I mute it?
I heard the question. I'm happy to answer. So this is, this space really is meant as a meeting space for the tenant below. So it's not intended as a party space at all. I don't know what the programming will be for the roof. I can't say that they'll never have a reception on the roof, but this is meant as an extension, let's say, of the office space below. It's not a venue in any way.
Okay, are there other questions from the public?
Yes, there's one more.
Say something.
Rosalie Horonsky. It really looks as if this could be rented as a party space, or as that it could be music or other things that would disturb the peace of the buildings around it. And do the windows in the conference room open? Because you also discuss it as a catering space on pages 15 or 16. Do the windows open up and stay open, and the doors in the pavilion?
Ryan, are you?
I'm sorry. I asked earlier at the start of this. There were several people with hands raised. So, Rosalie, are you a member of the public, or are you with this group? I'm sorry. Someone had said that you were with this group, so I'm
the public.
Confused. Okay, I'm going to move you back over to attendee. 1 second. Great. If you guys want to answer that question, that's fine. I'm sorry. It was just...
Sure. Yeah, I was just actually looking on the panel. Is Ryan Harvey actually?
Yep. Yeah.
Great. I may have Ryan with the architects just speak to how the that glass is detailed.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me fine?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. My name is Ryan Harvey. I'm part of the architecture team at BIG. So the question with respect to the doors rather. Yes, they do open. They're like double sliders, like you might find in in a conference space to the exterior.
But to sort of clarify the question, all that is operable. To the question, are these doors? So all of these are fixed.
Those are fixed. That's correct.
This doesn't open up to the interior space. It's really just these doors at the center. Does that answer the question? I'm sorry, I don't know if it was just about the operability.
I think Valerie's going to the next person, if that's all.
Yeah. The next person is Andrew Ginzel.
Yes, hello.
There you go. You should be able to speak.
Unmute. Okay. As a resident of the adjacent building, I'm concerned about whether there's a designated tenant for this building as of yet. And in particular, the question really has to do with, does the pavilion have catering possibilities? Are there restrooms? What goes on besides open space?
So I can answer that, Cass.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan.
No worries. So there are restrooms at that level. That's correct. And in terms of what's going on in that's essentially, because there isn't enough, let's say, conference room spaces of that size on the levels below, the intent is to use this as a conference room, essentially. There's a pantry.
There's a kitchen?
There's a pantry. Kitchen? There's not a kitchen for I guess food preparation purposes in this floor.
But serving.
Yeah, it's pantry like this, like you would find in a conference room area, typally in an office level.
I mean, the primary concern is about noise, security, the general egress to adjacent buildings, and really, what is the extent of the use?
Correct. That's understood. I think the idea really is to use this as an extension for the inhabitants of the office space below. So it's an outdoor area for respite for those occupants. I think there was a question about a designated tenant. There is a tenant that this is intended for. So really this, again, is an extension of the office use from the floors below.
I just want the tenant or no tenant or who the tenant is not a landmarks concern.
Okay. Just concerned about nighttime use. That's primarily off hours and such.
Are there others who wish to speak?
Yes, there's someone, Sarah Walker, who doesn't have her hand raised. Sarah, are you Sarah Berry?
No, Sarah Walker.
I don't see you listed.
I can see my own picture.
I can see you.
I'm sorry, are you a member of the public? Again,
I am a member of the public.
Okay. Then go ahead and I'm going to move you back to attendee.
Okay. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so my question is, as someone who lives also in the adjacent building, is there any, I don't know if this is even a landmarks question, but the whole idea of some kind of visual separation, even though this is a beautiful design on our neighbor's roof, will there be some kind of visual separation from the increased activity that will be on the roof if this design goes into construction? You know, that it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's not just for the tenant directly underneath, but all the offices in the building will have access to some degree to this roof and people associated with them. And both a visual and a security barrier to our roof would seem fairly important.
Again, the visual is not a landmarks question, but we'll entertain it as part of the general discussion.
Thank you.
Which, if I could just ask, Sarah, which direction do you live, to the south or to the west?
To the west.
Okay, I think, you know, I think there's a tall parapet wall. I mean, I don't know if this image, this is maybe the best image to look at, but I think there's a tall parapet wall beyond beyond where, you know, sorry, beyond where this elevation is.
This image is good to hang on for a sec, Cass.
Yep.
So yeah, Sarah, I think likewise, there's security concern from people coming from this roof to your roof. It goes the other way too. And I think what we're proposing to utilize is a guardrail along that line that separates the two properties.
Are you talking about something similar to what you have on the front of the building?
Yeah.
So there's no, that may be something of a security boundary, but it won't be a visual barrier.
There is obviously a landscaping strategy, as well as the bulkhead core along that let's call it line in the north-south direction. So that does provide visual relief to, say, the central terrace area. Also combined with the fact that the central terrace area is, in a sense, sunken into this, we call it the meadow. So the combination of the sunken nature of it, but also the vegetation and the bulkhead, I think will provide that visual barrier.
But not a sound barrier necessarily.
From like sound barrier from
from whatever is happening on your roof. I mean, I would imagine that any kind of extension of business meetings happening under that enclosure, that's one thing, but I cannot imagine this won't be used for after hours office parties because it is so ideal for something like that. Our tenant, the woman who and her family who owns the top floor of this building, her unit is very permeable to surrounding sound from the roof, and we're particularly concerned about her experience.
Maybe you know your address, ma'am. Which building are you? What is the number?
138 Prince.
Okay. Are there? I think you've registered a concern, and he's.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Sean, we'll certainly convey these concerns. I mean, Ryan is designing this project, and we'll, convey these concerns to our client, and about the, regarding the tenancy too. I think, our clients, and I know the tenant has every desire to be a good neighbor. And I'm not just saying that. So we'll convey these concerns for sure.
Okay. Are there other?
Yep.
I see that Sandy has her hand raised.
Okay. Are we finished with the public? Let's try to be orderly.
Okay. Nicole Sherwood, did you already speak? I'm sorry.
Yes, I spoke. Thank you. Sorry about that. I'll put my hand down.
That's it, Chanel. It's just Sandy that's left.
Okay, back to the committee. Sandy wants to ask a question.
No, it's been addressed, but these last discussions about noise and what neighbors are afraid of is really not part of the discussion for landmarks. I wish it were, but it isn't.
Yes, I made that clear as the
Yeah.
beginning of it. So we're aware of these things and think about them, but our ruling can't be based on them.
Chanel, I don't know if you're still going to entertain questions from the public, but there is someone else with their hand raised.
It's just a little awkward, so we'll excuse. I was just trying to be orderly, not restrictive.
Sarah, Barry.
Hi, it's Sarah Berry. I'm actually sitting here with my husband, Paul Chinkle, and he'd like to say something. We live in the building next door, 138 Prince, and neighbors to Sarah Walker and Rosalie Horonsky and the 6th floor that Sarah just spoke about. So my husband, Paul Chinkle, would like to say something.
Yes, the reason I want to mention about the adjacent wall next to the pergola is relatively low, and in the past, and I've lived in that building for a long time. In the past, you know, people would jump over that wall and enter our building. Now it is not to our advantage to have a no wall there or jeopardize our safety. Now the other thing I was going to say is that, you know, this it not only impacts us, but if you live across the street, you know, this will also impact the neighbors across the street. And I think this is this plan is not. The reason I think it's not good is because first of all, it's a very large building, and I remember it when it was a bakery, and I used to smell all the bread that was being baked there. So I don't see why this structure has to be built on top of the building, but in fact, it is a very large building to begin with. I think that the conference room could easily be placed into building it.
Sir, we're having trouble hearing you. There seems to be
okay, so
other
maybe
noise.
my over the speaker here. But you know, I think this is totally inappropriate, considering the fact that it is such a large building, and I think that inevitably this will be a party space. No, inevitably, and it will have an impact on all the neighbors. Even though the plan looks very beautiful and all that, but I think that a landmarks decision has to be made also because of the use of it and the impact it has on not just the looking of something, but the sound, etc., etc. So so I don't think this is a wise idea, and it's misconceived. So I think that this should be scrapped, and the space that you have in that building should easily incorporate out, you know, with proper skylights, etc.
Sir, these issues that you raise are perfectly valid ones. They are not landmarks considerations, however, and we'll certainly include these concerns, and most especially the security concern, which could enter into the landmarks decisions ultimately because of the construction that would be involved.
Yes,
So
yes,
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Valerie just said.
That's it.
Okay. Just to be clear, so for when we have our thing, are there any questions for Cass just about the technicality of it or the design of it or something anyone doesn't understand? Okay, thank you, everybody, and
thank you,
Cass and group, and we'll go on to our next session now.
I'm just gonna move the last.
I'm sorry. I didn't ask
no,
if
that's
there are
okay.
any.
I'm just letting them know.
Are there any board members not on the committee who wish to speak, or indeed in attendance?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm just gonna move the applicants from that case over just so they know.
Okay.
They're gonna.
Okay. When you move them out, let me know and I will begin.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. Everybody's clear about Lafayette Street, right? Well, we're not seeing it. Horatio Street. If we could begin, and again in the order of the presentation, the windows are essentially the same, except that they are clad in aluminum, though they're made of wood. Who wishes to speak about that? Could I point out that we just in the last couple of months denied this very kind of window on a much less architecturally important building, and it was sustained by the commission. Brian.
Yeah, and so this is Brian, and that's a distinction between that previous denial and this one. That's why I made the clarification. These are wood windows that are painted. The only aluminum on the windows at all are these little window muntin attachments. Not the window itself, not the sash, not the frame. None of the wood window is aluminum clad. As I made that clarification for that reason.
Okay, I wanted to hear that clearly. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other comments on the proposal at all? With Brian's qualification of, does anyone take exception to approving the application?
Well, the only thing, Chanel, the only thing I'm wondering about is, this is Bo, is I think this is the one where he has, what are they called again? Push and turn or something like that. In other words, they look like 6/6 or 3/3, but they're in fact not operable as double hung windows. Is that right, Brian? I can't remember.
Yeah, that's right. I have Tilton.
Yeah,
Yes.
so the
Brian,
thing is, you know,
Brian.
my concern about that is that, you know, it might look sort of right, but, you know, we're in a historic district. This is a historic building. I don't think it's such a hardship to have double hung windows that are operable and wooden double hung windows. I mean, the state of the art in making double hung windows is pretty damn good. You know, I don't think you need the I forget the term. It's push and turn or something like that.
Tilt and turn.
Tilt and turn, right.
Tilt and turn.
And they don't. Go ahead. I'm just saying that those
well,
are.
You're right, because when they want to open the window, it's not going to be looking double hung anymore.
Exactly. Exactly. So when they're closed, you know, maybe only people like us would notice. But, you know, when they're open, as Sandy points out, it's clear, and it just isn't necessary. You know, I understand the modifications that people seek for various reasons, and that's fine. But this is a situation. That's not me, by the way. I don't know.
No, it's me.
But I think it's a slippery slope when you have a historic building with historic windows, and it's something as simple as putting in a new double hung window. I just think we should stick to that. You know, it's the same. You know, it's an easy path to Disneyland. That's my concern.
I want to.
Will anyone else like to comment about?
Chime in. I'm going to chime in here and support what Bo is saying, because I think we can't separate out we can't discount the fact that once the tilt and turn windows are open, the illusion is completely.
I would like to move to have Sandy kicked off the board for this.
But it's not her, she's muted.
Yeah, she's muted.
Okay.
You know, is in your background, you know?
I'm missing
Not
whatever
me.
Brian said.
Is that you? Okay.
Nope.
Okay, are there others who wish to speak?
Susan, did you finish? Susan, I like what you were saying. Did you finish?
No, I'm just looking for other
Yes, I
people to
finished.
speak.
Thanks, Bo. I do not support the method of operation of these windows because once they're open, the illusion of them being historically accurate is utterly destroyed.
I was unclear about that until it was explained again. Is anyone else? Is everyone clear?
All right, so
about the look of the opening.
Yes,
of the open window.
I would like to comment on what Bo said. In fact, modern double hung or single hung windows are very energy efficient. They are, they can be sealed when closed and locked, and they can be cleaned from the inside because they can actually tilt in to the interior. That's one of the biggest innovations in the last 2 decades about double hung windows. So there wouldn't even be a case of, we're still hearing chimes in the background from somebody. It's not even a case of easier to.
Now we know.
I'm sorry, it was my phone. I had my headset on.
And everyone tried to blame me.
Yeah. Okay.
So, can we clarify one thing? When the windows open just for ventilation, or just the way you open
turn
it,
them
just a moment.
inside. You can, they tilt in, or you can open them completely as if it were a door. So if you open it the way it can be opened, you won't see any window. You will just see an opening.
Okay, I understand. Is everyone clear on that when the window is open, it does not look like a proper double hung window?
Yeah, it's just a void.
It's
right.
a void. It's a void.
Okay. Based on that, what are people's feelings about approval?
I think they should be denied.
We have 3 people so far who would vote against the application. Are there others?
Yes. Yeah. Am I muted?
Let me, just for clarity, let me poll, please. Valerie, do you vote to approve or deny?
I will go with the majority.
Albert?
Yes, I'm afraid I'm still muted, right?
No, we can hear you.
We hear you.
Okay. Yes, I go with the majority.
Okay. Eugene?
I will also go with the majority here.
The majority, I take it, the people that have already voted. Okay. I agree. Is anyone in favor of approving the application? Okay, and we will say in the reason is very particularly because of the appearance when the window is open. Am I correct in the way I've worded that, Brian?
Yes, that's right.
And I want to be clear, are you voting for or against the resolution since you spoke otherwise?
Yes, I believe that we should recommend that the choice of window be a double hung type of window.
Okay, so everyone is in agreement. wooden double hung window is what we're specifying.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Bank Street. Again, going in order, the rooftop addition and its minimal visibility from what we saw as one spot. Any objection to it?
I would like to congratulate them on the use of solar panels.
We'll take a broad view that that's a landmark comment. The rear facade, first the extension and its modifications and window changes.
Well, as I
This
mentioned,
means the basement and the parlor floor only.
right. I think visually, like I mentioned before, to see the amount of glass actually reduced from a previous remodeling, I consider this rear extension to be an improvement, and I would support it.
And it, just in my memory of all of these that come before us, this is a rather restrained, what you might call modern classical way that these two floors are treated. Now, separately from that, or changing of the windows and changing of the openings and introducing a bay window, which will necessarily involve demolition. Since I brought it up at the thing, I'll comment. I think that it's wrong. I would hope that we could see the existing openings, though the material of the rear facade is not original. The design certainly is. And we have, in general, just as a matter of precedent, asked that anything above an extension or the parlor floor, whichever is taller, should conform to the, particularly the three opening, and the windows are again plain glass. Could someone else speak about that?
Well, I would like to ask the question then, if that bump out for that bedroom floor had two windows that matched the way they were lined up before, would that be acceptable to you?
I would prefer not disturbing the historic design of the facade of the upper two floors.
Okay, well.
I mean, no compelling reason was given for it either.
Well,
and
the only
thing is going to throw the symmetry off.
Yeah, the one thing that I recall being mentioned was that that rear facade has been rebuilt.
Yes, the material's different, and presumably the design of it is historic. I mean, it certainly looks and matches all the other houses and any other house.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else want to comment?
Yeah, I don't agree. I mean, I think that we've been fairly relaxed about modern upgrades to the rear, these donut hole yards. And I think it's as the applicant pointed out, it's much less intrusive than his neighbor. And I like it. It seems-
Anyone else want to comment on that aspect?
Go ahead, Susan.
I agree with you, Chenault. I mean, I don't hate it, but I do agree with you. And I don't really think that, it can, the sort of, well, it's not so bad, it can always be worse, relativity kind of argument is necessarily consistent with the landmark's point of view.
Are any other, we'll talk about that separately, person by person, unless there are other comments about it. Okay, are there any other comments about this application?
Well, Chenault, the only thing I would say is that I agree that the rear facade is unusually good looking. I really think it is. I'm mostly against a lot of the changes that are proposed. I think it comes down to whether or not we want to be more purist and sort of in line with what we've done in the past, in which case I would agree with your position, Chenault, that it's they are removing historic material with no really compelling reason. So it really has to do with that. I mean, whether or not
to be technical, they're changing the historic design because the material's new.
They are.
But,
they are. I agree.
But the result is the same.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying that the result in this case, in my opinion, is pretty good. But they are violating sort of what we have stood for in the past. So we probably should deny that aspect of it.
And the Landmarks Commission has in general agreed with that position.
Right.
So far, Susan, Bo, and I take the position that against the second floor addition. Are there others who join that? I'm just trying to keep having to talk to everybody.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, Albert, and are there others?
Well, I think that I would have to just lean on the side of accepting their proposal because of the restrained nature.
You're saying there, okay, and we're talking about the other side. Is that we have my original, Susan, Albert, and Bo. Are there any others who prefer the opposed? I'm just trying to count the number of people. So Valerie is in favor of it. Eugene is in favor of it. Brian is in favor of it. Sandy is in favor of it. So that's, am I correct that we're 4 and 4?
Yeah, we are.
In that case, I suppose I'm supposed to break the tie, though I voted. I'm not sure.
You're part of the tie.
At any rate, I've noted that, and I'll find out what the proper way to deal with this is. Otherwise, does everyone approve of the resolution, which is to approve the rest of it as presented?
So the roof,
I don't hear any.
The rooftop is approved or disapproved?
Everything's approved except the facade is in question.
Okay.
Okay, and I will simply determine what the proper procedure is. It may need to send it along to the board as a time, but we'll find out.
The Vice
Street.
President breaks the tie.
Sorry.
In the Senate. The Vice President breaks the tie in the Senate. I don't know what the community board rule is.
Right. Prince Street.
Yeah, can I speak, Chenault? You want to take this? I just want to make a. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I do. What I'd like to do is do it in the way it was presented, because that's the way all the notes are.
Okay.
The first thing is to demolish the present penthouse. If there are no objections to that, we can go on to discuss the new penthouse or the new rooftop. Everyone's clear on it. Remembering what our charge is, who would like to comment on the design? And I think we've established, and if anyone disagrees, that the only visibility is from a distance of the top of the roof of the enclosed section.
I would like to comment, Chenault, because
Okay.
I remember that building when it was built. It's not a very good looking building. It was built in 1988, and the changes that they made to the former bakery building were not improvements at the time. I mean, it wasn't well done. And I think now this is very minor, but still an improvement. You know, it reduced the visibility of the rooftop. I have no problem with the one extra door that they're putting in, and they're also changing one of the other openings to make it more consistent with the ones alongside of it, even though it's in the old building. But overall, it's better than it is now, and it's been pretty, you know, it was never great to begin with. So I would approve the whole thing.
It sounds as though you think it's almost a pity we can't see more of it if we don't work there. Does anyone else want to comment on the rooftop?
Well, the other thing, let me just say on the rooftop, you know, I understand, I know a lot of those people who spoke, and I get their concern. I mean, I would be as concerned as they are if I lived next door, but it's not within our purview in this committee
Right.
to deal with that.
We do make for something that was so much, we mentioned the objection and the main reason for it.
Yeah.
Understanding that it's not part of our decision.
Right.
We just acknowledge they were here. But this is often the only place people feel like they can come, because you can't come to quality of life to complain about a quality of life that's not already bad.
Right.
So we get a bit of this no matter what. Would anyone else like to comment on the roof of
Yes. So
any aspect? Yeah.
As we were hearing the comments about the concern for parties and noise and security, I looked carefully at the existing roof plan of the existing building. It is the exact same function. It has the same amount of room. It has the roof terrace for gatherings outside. I don't see that this design, and I do agree that it's an improvement in its design and appearance. I don't even see any change from what is there now that is detrimental. Even the security issue, if there's a wall there or a fence there or something, they're not taking anything away with the new design. So I can sympathize with a concern, but I didn't hear anybody say, well, this is a problem now. This is how they're using it now. And there is already, it's office space now. So anyway,
Okay.
It's my way of saying this is no way is going to contribute to the problem.
Again, this is something that we'll put in the concerns of the people, but not in our decision, especially as you point out that nothing's different except basically things are added. Structures are added, but that's it.
Yeah,
The issue of security is not different.
Well, let me just say something, because, you know, I think I owe it to some of those people who I do know. Their concern although I haven't spoken to any of them about this, is that this is a new tenant, and there is a growing popularity with outdoor space, which there should be, I think, for offices now, and we all know why. But they're concerned that a new tenant will start some new practices, and they probably will. Whether that will actually be a dance party venue, I think is not certainly certain, and probably won't be. But I do think there'll be some activity attendant to the fact that there are new people in a new office space. But again,
it's much more attractive.
Yeah, and much more attractive, and there's a reason to be up there, and it'll be used more. But again, I'm sorry that if they feel that this might be a problem, but there's nothing we can do about it.
Does anyone else want to comment on any aspect of the application?
I think it's interesting that they are adding a key card space, which may mean that the roof will be available only to those who have a key card.
Well, that's to get into the building, so it's not, certainly the public can't come and go.
This is all speculative, how the key card would be used, how the new roof would be used. It's just something we can, mention in our resolution, but it's really outside the purview of what we're supposed to do.
Okay. Are there any comments about the design, or apart from what we've discussed about the comments of the neighbors, is there any reservation about the proposal?
I'm sorry, I had one comment, if I may, about the issue of it becoming a party space, and having heard the neighbors say that they are concerned, given it's a new user, that there may be activities there that weren't there before. If it would become a party space, if they would have events, chances are they would have to apply for a liquor license or something, and in that case, it would come back to the community board to another committee. So I think that Chenault is right, that it should be referenced in the resolution that neighbors, not the general public, but neighbors, had problems with the potential noises. But we should know that if it is going to be a party space, they would probably need to come back to this community board and to a different committee. We don't just say that in the resolution, for some sort of liquor license, in which case we would then review as a full board.
Right, we understand. That wouldn't come to us, but that's another thing entirely.
Exactly. But as Chenault says, it could be referenced in the resolution.
Yeah, I totally agree with Michael, and I just want to add perhaps one more thing just to, honor the community input here, is that Cass indicated, a very real respect for the issues that the neighbors were bringing up, and kind of represented on behalf of the applicant that they really, respected the concerns of the neighbors. So I think it might not be a bad idea, even though, of course, we all know it's not a landmarks issue, just to sort of memorialize in our resolution that it was, a
concern.
That the neighbor's concern was
acknowledged
by the applicant,
right.
And the applicant indicated, that concern would be, what's the word I'm looking for? That concern would be respected. Doesn't hurt to memorialize that,
Exactly, as part of the public comment section. Yeah. Just to sum up, the public comment section will have what Susan just said of the noise, which is the real issue of its use, I think, and the security. I don't think we have to address any of those, but they're all, or those are the three things. Or is there anything else that anyone feels should be included in the part about the public, the comments of the public? Okay, we'll consider this unanimous unless someone speaks up. Thank you. Clearly there won't be a Monday night meeting, since this is all that came in. I have no explanation of why things have gotten so extremely quiet, but we'll see what next month brings. I don't think we have any applications yet for it, so we'll see. It's just about the time they should begin to come in normally. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chanel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thanks,
Thank-
Chanel. Good night, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Valerie.
Bye.
And Valerie, will you send me the list just to double check mine?
So Chanel, we're not discussing any budget items tonight?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's on the
I had so
calendar.
many notes, I scrolled down.
That's on the calendar.
I circulated a sort of a modification of the one we sent last year, which was basically to ensure there's enough money to enforce and to keep an eye on things.
Yeah, I think that's good. Chanel, what you wrote is
This is something that applies much more to something like building a new school, and we don't build or tear down anything on our own. So we're totally
It's always
reactive.
enforcement. That's always, you know.
Yeah, right.
That's
enforcement.
Right.
And sufficient. But somebody wrote the way it was. But I looked at it and said, since this is a budget item, that's the purpose that its purpose is to have enough budget for these things. Okay. That's it for the budget. Okay, now, since I've scrolled all the way down, we can adjourn. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, all.